A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions. Many of you might be having a hard time thinking that we would actually be persecuted for praying and things like that, or being persecuted the way that they were during biblical times. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but our Vice President, J.D. Vance, actually went to the Munich Security Conference, and he boldly started calling out what the government is doing in those parts in the world, in Europe and many other places. But you're going to see prophecy coming to pass and what the government is doing. And of course, it's not only there, it is all over the world, but we simply are not seeing it because we are distracted by so many other things. Now, you're going to be seeing him here talk about what the government did for a man that was praying outside of an abortion clinic. And I'll also be showing you the verses on where we're seeing this symbolism or it paralleling to times in the Bible, like in the book of Daniel. And we're going to be bringing it to where they asked Jesus, what are the signs that we will see to know that we are in the end times? Now look at what the vice president had to say.
A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected.
Listen to what he just said, that if you are in a certain zone within a certain amount of meters, that is going to be illegal to even pray within your home. That's exactly what happened to Daniel. And right after this video, I'm going to show you that in the verses.
Guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. And in the interest of comedy, my friends, but also in the interest of truth, I will admit that sometimes the loudest voices for censorship have come not from within Europe, but from within my own country, where the prior administration threatened and bullied social media companies to censor so-called misinformation. Misinformation like, for example, the idea that coronavirus had likely leaked from a laboratory in...
That is insane. We're literally seeing biblical times come to pass. Now let's go to those verses in Daniel. Now we're starting off here in Daniel chapter 6. We can see here, look at the subtitle here. It says Daniel in the lion's den. This is one of the most famous stories in the Bible. We can start off with verse 3. It says, Daniel soon proved himself more capable than the other administrators and high officers. Because of Daniel's great ability, the king made plans to place him over the entire empire. Now look at this highlighted part. Then the other administrators and high officers began searching for some fault in the way Daniel was handling government affairs, but they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. He was faithful and always responsible and completely trustworthy. So they concluded our only chance of finding grounds for accusing Daniel will be in connection with the rules of his religion. Look at how this is already starting to line up. So the administrators and high officers went to the king, or in today's time, the president or prime ministers, and said, "Long live King Darius. We are all in agreement, we administrators, officials, high officers, advisors, and governors, that the king should make a law that will be strictly enforced. Give orders that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions. And now, your majesty, issue and sign this law so that it cannot be changed. An official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked." So King Darius signed the law. Look at this. The same way that they're making laws today to stop people from worshiping and praying to God or to any other type of God, as it said here, is going to be locked up. And in this time, in Daniel, he was going to be thrown into a den of lions, which is another type of cage. So continuing with verse 10. When Daniel learned that the law had been signed, he went home and knelt down as usual in his upstairs room, with its window open toward Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done, giving thanks to his God. Now, the same way the vice president was just saying that they're now trying to make a law, or already made the law, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you're within a certain space, even praying in your home will be illegal. Then the officials went together to Daniel's house and found him praying and asking God for help. So they went straight to the king and reminded him about his law. Did you not sign a law that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions? Yes, the king replied, that decision stands. It is an official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked. And of course, it's going to continue and go on. We know the famous story that Daniel gets thrown into the lion's den, and God sends his angel to keep those lions' mouths closed, and nothing happened. And the king was so surprised that he actually reversed the law, and he made it a law that now they have to worship Daniel's God. Now let's go and see where Jesus talks about this in Matthew 24. The subtitle here says Jesus speaks about the future. Let's start with verse 3. It says, "Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives. His disciples came to him privately and said, 'Tell us, when will all this happen? What sign will signal your return and the end of the world?' Verse 4, Jesus told them, 'Don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name claiming I am the Messiah. They will deceive many.'" That's already happening. "And you will hear of wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately." Obviously, we're hearing the rumors of wars, and we're already seeing wars going on, like between Israel and Gaza, Russia and Ukraine, and a bunch of other little ones that are not being shown right now in the media. But of course, we're seeing the wars and rumors of wars, like the United States getting pulled into all these other wars that are going on. "Nation will go war against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world. But all of this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come." Now look at this part on what Jesus says in verse 9 that we're seeing happen right now in our time. "Then you will be arrested, persecuted, and killed. You will be hated all over the world because you are my followers. and many will turn away from me and betray and hate each other. Now, if that doesn't open your eyes to what is going on, to start paying attention on what is going around the world and what is going on in your home, to see if what Jesus has been talking about is starting to come to pass, so that you can know the times that is going on. And we saw time and time again that the laws that happened in Europe slowly come to America, and we're starting to see those things, like in 2020 when they shut things down and they weren't allowing us to come together. That, like he said, that our government was censoring people from saying certain things and labeling it misinformation. It is the Trojan horse to start censoring you, to take away your freedom of speech. And it is all already written in God's words. As we're seeing, Jesus continues to go on in Matthew chapter 24 and talks about all the things that are going to come to pass, all the things that are going to happen. So I encourage you to go read that. Go read the book of Revelation and see what is going on. Go read the book of Daniel. See what God reveals even through Daniel that is connecting with the book of Revelation. And all these insanity, it talks about that there will be signs in the sky and things going on in the sky and in space. And we're starting to see that with the drones, the meteors and planets and all these other crazy phenomenons that are happening that was already prophesied in the Bible. We need to stay vigilant. We need to be like Daniel. Even if they make these kind of laws, we are not scared. We will be thrown in the lion's den. We will be thrown in jail. And even the worst case, as the Bible says, that we will be killed. But it is with glory, it is with honor and a privilege, because it is for Jesus Christ. Start opening your eyes to what is going on and know what times we are in biblically. Share this with somebody that you know is naive to these things, that doesn't know all these things are going on and needs to wake up.